Late Night Health continues with our regular contributor, Robert Clancy. I almost called him Dr. Clancy. He's a doctor of inspiration, and he is the author of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Soul, amongst other things. Robert, you're going to talk to us today about volunteerism.
Absolutely. It's one of my favorite topics, and my inspirational quote is, "Volunteers never die. They're just lending a hand to make heaven a bit better." And, it comes down to, for me, a legacy that we leave in life. And why not, leave one in the hearts of everyone you've touched? And a huge, proponent, is volunteerism. And what a better way to create a beautiful legacy than with kindness and putting that out there and making the world a bit better.
Isn't that paying it forward, volunteering?
It's paying it forward, but it's not even paying it in that sense, because if you're just putting it out there, the payment comes back to you threefold over when you make a difference in someone's life. So that's really the paying it forward part. I think it's actually a repayment back to your heart.
Paying it forward is important, though. I mean, as you just said, volunteering is a way of paying it forward and with no expectations.
Right. Well, paying it forward, I always look at that if somebody's already done something for you, and then you're gonna pass that on. Where I'm just saying you're the initiator of that, and other people are going to pay it forward years to come for what you've done for them.
It's like somebody giving you a car because you need one, and then walking away because they don't need the car anymore.
Absolutely.
All right, well, next week we're going to talk about love, and that's one of my favorite topics. And we'll be doing that next week with Robert Clancy, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Soul. Robert, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Late Night Health continues with our next guest, and we're going to go to Canada. Deanna-Hanson joins us. She's going to tell us about block therapy during our next segment. We're going to talk about getting rid of pain, pressure, fat, anxiety, did I say depression, and of course chronic pain. These are all things that Deanna experienced, and she lost 50 pounds, probably more. You can take a look at her on our website, I Go Hubba Hubba. She's a very attractive young lady, and we welcome you to Late Night Health.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Is it really easy to follow a protocol that will drop pounds and help make you mentally alert again?
It is really easy with my system. The reason it's so easy is because with block therapy, I teach people how to decompress tissue that has been compressed over time. So as we age, gravity affects us. It makes us basically shorter and wider. And that compression acts like beaver dams to blood and oxygen flow. So over time, cells eventually aren't fed and cleaned as effectively, and it also creates a shifting in connective tissue. So when we think we're actually getting fatter as we age and it's harder to keep weight off, it's really because we are falling into our space, causing a bulging effect, which ultimately affects digestion and elimination, which affects our size and our shape.
But isn't it gravity that's pulling us down?
Gravity is pulling us down. So with gravity, we compress, so we become shorter and wider. So it's that compression that is the challenge. The compression is what's blocking blood and oxygen flow to cells, and cells not fed and clean experience pain, aging, and disease. So what we really want to do is we want to make sure that every cell in the body is properly positioned and aligned to optimally receive oxygen and its nutrients through blood flow, and to be cleaned effectively through the removal of toxins and byproducts and all of the things that we ingest through the day. So if we keep our flow consistent and optimal, ultimately we should be able to go through time without our tissue accumulating age. And it's the diaphragmatic breath, the full conscious exhalation, that is the counterforce to gravity. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So if we don't use that counterforce to gravity, gravity wins. We become shorter and wider, but we don't have to. So where block therapy is amazing, it's understanding that as we are coming from the point where gravity has been winning because we haven't been conscious breathers, that connective tissue called fascia will seal us out of alignment with a force of up to 2,000 pounds per square inch.
Do you
think of that?
Do you have a background in healthcare? I mean,
Yes, I do. I'm an athletic therapist by profession, and I was studying to be an Iyengar yoga teacher. But block therapy and the science behind block therapy, which is called fluid isometrics, which is a technique I've developed, it is my system.
So you developed this yourself. Now, I don't have a problem with gravity making me shorter. And I said that before the insane Daryl Wayne, our producer, said it, because there's no way. However, the wider part is happening. Can you help? Can you help?
Of course I can help.
Okay.
And the thing is, when we become shorter, there's a displacement of tissue, which is why we become wider. It has to go somewhere. So if our rib cage, imagine sitting in front of a computer for 20 or 30 or 40 years, as many people are doing today, and we're not sitting with conscious posture. So the rib cage is literally falling into that core space. So as we get older, we get a spare tire, we get a bulging belly. We think we're increasing our fat, but what's really happening is we are decreasing our internal space, causing a displacement of tissue outward, which is why we're getting bigger in size. And when that happens, when that whole rib cage is collapsing into the core, it's putting stress and pressure onto the stomach organs, the pancreas, the liver, the gallbladder, even the aorta. The main artery supplying the body with blood goes right through that area. And if we aren't sitting correctly, everything is getting squished and displaced, so it's not functioning as well as it can be. And that causes health problems, including weight increase.
Conscious posture. As I'm sitting here now, I'm sucking in a little bit. I'm sitting back a little bit in my chair, but I don't always do that. You mentioned it. Is that what conscious posture is?
Conscious posture is using our body as it was designed to be used, and we have proper foundations to allow every cell to be properly aligned. But if we don't apply that action into our daily life, through compression, the body forms false walls and false floors, and that's those beaver dams to blood flow. Because, for example, most people are dominant on one side, right?
Right.
I'm right-handed. I think 70% of the population is right-handed. So if you look at the average right-handed person, they will shift their body weight to the left side, keeping that right side free for action. So now we're like a building. And if we don't keep consistent postural alignment, we collapse into those spaces, and then the body creates those false walls.
And like a building, there's an earthquake and we fall apart.
Exactly. And then everything up the chain is affected. So people can have migraines because of how they're standing incorrectly and how that compression is torquing the spine and how that's, blocking blood and oxygen flow to cells. We have to look at the body as a whole to truly understand health.
Within the last few years, decompression in chiropractic has become quite popular. There's maneuvers, techniques. I think there's a machine that does it. All of the above. Is this the same kind of decompression that you're talking about?
Not quite. So the fascia system, it's pretty amazing. And the world is really just in the last number of years waking up to this system. In 2007, I actually went to the world's first fascia conference at Harvard. And in the material that they were sending out, they said that we really understand about 4% of this system. So, in surgery, our fascia system gets cut out. We're realizing now the intelligence and the importance of this system. And the way that I see it, basically, is that the cell membrane is the fascia system, and every cell, like an eggshell, has a membrane to keep the inner contents safe and supported. But imagine if we have compression, suddenly those cells don't have the space to allow blood to properly flow into and out of the cells to keep it fed and clean properly. So when I'm talking about compression, I'm talking about decompression of the fascia, not simply just the spine or other larger components of the body. Every single everything in the body is connected through the fascia system. So again, we're like a building, and the fascia is like the floors, the walls, the ceilings of the building.
I just met somebody who does myofascial
release.
Yes. Is that a similar technique or not?
It's a different technique, but it's still working in the fascia system, but it's a different approach to creating ultimately the release. And what makes block therapy, one of the things that makes block therapy so unique, is that I teach people how to lie on my handcrafted cedar wooden block, which is the tool that we use for block therapy. Now, wood and bone share a similar density. Fascia will grip and adhere onto bone, and that's really those roots that are causing us to suffer. If we have fascia gripping onto bone, that affects our range of motion. It affects blood flow to cells on the other side of that grip. So if we really want to release that grip from the cause site, from the bone, we need a medium that is similar in density to bone, which is wood. So in block therapy, we use handcrafted wooden blocks that I designed specifically to fit into the contours of the body so we can move in deeply and safely and comfortably all the way to the bone to create that release.
You also talked about scar tissue. Almost everybody has some kind of scarring, I would think. Yeah. And that's a more dense tissue, is my understanding. I mean, I'm just coming at this from a consumer point of view. And when that tissue gets harder, if you will, you don't have the flexibility. Can block therapy unblock it?
Absolutely. Scar tissue, whether it be from injury or surgery or compression from years of incorrect posture and unconscious breathing over time, really is the same. It is as dense. And again, that tissue will hold and seal out of alignment with a force of 2,000 pounds per square inch. So that's how powerful scar tissue is. So compression and scar tissue really are doing the same thing in the body. And that's where block therapy is so wonderful, because it doesn't matter if it's been from surgery, injury, or simply unconscious posture and breathing over years. It gets in and it starts to create that space in that tissue so we can lighten it. And it's through proper diaphragmatic breathing that we actually make it lighter. If you had a balloon and you blew it up, it would almost defy gravity. You let the air out and it falls to the earth. Same with the cells in the body. If we're breathing consciously and diaphragmatically every single breath, we're keeping our cells inflated, so we become light and buoyant and graceful as we move through time. If we don't breathe properly, that compression happens. We become denser, we become heavier, gravity manipulates us more, and that aging becomes rapid, because gravity really is the driver of aging. But again, we have that full conscious exhalation mechanism inside our bodies to counter that force.
Our guest is Deanna Hansen, the creator of Block Therapy. She teaches instructors and also individuals. And if you go to unblockyourbody.com, you can find out some more information. Join us, of course, at latenighthealth.com. You'll see a pretty picture of Deanna and more information about her as well. All right, Deanna and I return. Don't go away. More coming up here on Late Night Health.